Awesome. All right, let's just start with a little bit of housekeeping to get going here. And Heather, if at any point there's something up with the screen, just interrupt and let me know, okay?
Okay.
So welcome to Essential Oils for Cats and Dogs. I did see that some of you have questions about different animals besides just cats and dogs. So I want you to know that at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, we're going to share a screen that has resources on it. And that's going to help you out if you have smaller animals like, your bunnies and your birds, or if you have larger animals like your horses, for example. So stay tuned for all of that. You can take pictures or screenshots, so get your phone out if you want to do that. And we also have the chat is going to be active. So April is going to help us out by managing the chat, and she'll respond to any kind of generic essential oil questions that you might have. And then anything that's specific to what we're talking about with cats and dogs, she'll just jot down, and we'll come around at the end to go ahead and answer those questions. So as the questions come up, please feel free to put them in the chat. And if you want to wait till the end, you can do that as well, but we're going to answer questions at the end. And then if everybody could stay muted for me, I would greatly appreciate it. I can't see the chat since I'm screen sharing. So if people are popping on and we need to just do a reminder, maybe you can put something into the chat, or Heather, if you want to be in charge of kind of letting them know if there's some background noise, that would be good. And I think the last thing that I want to cover before we get into introductions here is just that this is a essential oil this is a specialty class. Okay, so we're not going to go too far into essential oils 101 and some of the more generic and general.
All right, Jillian, hold on a second. Could we just kindly ask everyone to mute themselves, because we're getting some pretty significant feedback.
Thanks, Heather.
The officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead it shot Mr. Wright.
It's Dana Lapointe. Dana, thank you, Dana.
Awesome. Okay, so as I was saying, we're not going to go too far into what is an essential oil and how are they created, how are they distilled, and all of that, because we're going to talk mostly about pets tonight. So if you have not yet already attended Essential Oils 101 to learn more about essential oils and really where they come from and what they are, I'm going to encourage you to jump on next Monday evening at 6:30. There is an Essential Oils 101 class, and that's going to cover some more of your basics. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start off by introducing myself. My name is Jillian Chase. As you can see from the screen here, I am a cat mom, essential oil educator, and also I'm an animal aromatherapy student. So I'm finishing up getting my certification. And these are my two girls, Abby and Annabelle, on the screen. Abby is, Abby is 17 years old, and Abby has chronic asthma, as well as a pretty significant heart murmur, and she's also hyperthyroid, just to give you an idea of some of the struggles that we deal with in my household. And then my sweet Annabelle, who's actually 19 years old. Annabelle is a vaccine-injured kitty cat who's also on a raw food diet. She has pretty severe allergies. She's been diagnosed with IBD. When your cats get up to the age of 17 and 19, you can have some pretty significant chronic conditions. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about how I manage some of these naturally. Some of them I do manage with medication. There's just no way around that, but I'm balancing with the things that I brought into my home naturally to help support their bodies as well. So Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly, thank you. So Jillian and I are the same, just different species. I'm a dog mom, and I'm also an essential oil educator. Like Jillian, we feed our 4 dogs. So you see I have 4 dogs. I'll introduce them in a minute. But we transitioned them to a raw food diet after Cooper, who's my guy on the left. He has some pretty significant vaccine damage. And one of the things we'll talk about this evening too was not just treating the symptom, because we can fix the symptom or work on it, but we wanted to find the root cause. So I have been studying, and I became certified as a raw dog food nutrition specialist. And I also work with a homeopathic veterinarian one-on-one, and I'm a graduate student with him, as well as one of his educational coaches, and that's Dr. Will Falconer. And he's quite remarkable, and he's a traditionally trained veterinarian who observed in his classic practice the effects of traditional approaches and became a homeopath. So a little bit about me. And then I have 4 dogs, as you see, not I, my husband and I. So Cooper's on the left, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you how old they are. I don't remember. I think Cooper's 5. Cam, the little guy on the blue bed, he is 2.5. And Ranger, that was his puppy picture. He's now 90 pounds. He's 4. And then Winston on the right, he is my older guy. I think he's 6 or 7. And Winston and Cooper are rescues, and Ranger and Cam are purebred Labradors. So there we go.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Let's dive in.
Awesome.
If I can get the screens to advance, let's dive in.
You're driving.
I am driving. I don't know why it's not going, but here we go. That changed, right?
It did change. Yep,
Okay,
we're on the
awesome.
next slide now.
Great. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the wellness lifestyle. And if you are already a doTERRA customer or already attended a doTERRA class, you might at some point have seen our wellness pyramid. And even when we're talking about animals, it's really important that we still talk about health in the wellness lifestyle in the same order. So the largest bar down there on the bottom, you're going to see eat right. We're going to talk about nutrition first, exercise, rest and manage stress, reduce toxic load. This is really, really important. Informed self-care. And then of course we have our proactive medical care as well. So we just want to kind of set you up for what we're going to talk about tonight, because although we are talking about essential oils, we really need to talk about the overall health of an animal before we can even start talking about what essential oils to use. So let's start with nutrition for felines, for our cats. And we need to understand that cats are carnivores. Cats need to eat meat. Cats cannot survive on a plant or carbohydrate diet. So I have a couple of resources on the left-hand side. Again, you're welcome to go ahead and take a picture of that or jot those down. And these are some of the things that you want to avoid when you are looking for pet food, cat food specifically. And then a few things that you want to look for, and really important to make sure that that named protein source, it shouldn't just say meat. It should say chicken, turkey, lamb, beef, whatever it is. And protein should be the first listed ingredient. One thing that's really important to understand about cats is that their digestive tract is a little bit different than some of the other, many other species, but particularly because they're really not designed to digest things like carbohydrates and plant matter. They are, if you think about lions out in the wild, they're eating their prey, right? They're killing it and they're eating it immediately. And that includes the organs, the bones, the skin, all pieces. So when it comes to feeding a cat a raw food diet, it's important to understand that we want to make sure that all parts of the animal are showing up in their food. One other thing I just want to mention here when we're talking about dry kibble is that cats do not naturally have an instinct to want to drink water. In the wild, they're eating, again, those recently, killed prey that is going to give them the moisture that they need. So our house cats that are drinking a lot of water, we should really identify, first of all, we need to find out if there's an underlying health condition that they might be drinking a lot of water, such as diabetes or something like that. But it could also be that what they're eating is not actually giving them enough moisture. And that's a key that maybe we want to start to look at their food, especially if they're having dried kibble. And I know Heather's going to talk about this a little bit more in detail. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her to talk about dogs and nutrition.
Thank you. So all of what Jillian just said also applies to dogs, but dogs are a little different. So I'm going to ask you to envision, because we didn't put it on the slide here, but dogs are what we call facultative carnivores, which basically means I pulled the definition from the Webster's Dictionary to give it to you. Dogs, fox, crocodile, shark, any animal that eats primarily animal matter. So think about, I'm going to ask you to think about like the lion. Think about how sharp their teeth are and that their jaws move up and down. Now think about a cow, they chew and our jaws too go side to side. We have the ability to, I want to say masticate, like to break down some of that plant matter. And dogs, they will eat what's served. But like Jillian said, when the species is less than 2% different than that of the wolf. So they eat what they find in the wild. And if that wild animal ate some plant matter, that's typically how they consume their plant matter. So they'll eat what they're given, but they are best designed to thrive. They can survive on a plant diet, but they are designed to thrive on a carnivorous diet. So on what to avoid, again, please take a photo of this. And again, I have some different resources on the left because dogs are different than cats. But again, the first listed ingredient should be a protein, not a meal or like bone meal, meat meal, animal digest. And I wanted you to know, like, it sounds a little innocuous, right? Animal digest, what is that? Here's the definition: any undesirable part deemed unacceptable for human consumption. And that can be derived, what we look at in the pet food world, as the 4 Ds. And yes, this is how most kibble, and it's gonna be factual here, this is how most kibble is made, from some of the 4 Ds: dying, diseased, disabled, or dead animals. That could include roadkill that's been there for who knows how long. We want to watch out for animal fat and beef tallow because those are low value protein sources and they can come from undesirable places. Obviously, just like us humans, we don't want chemicals, synthetic vitamins. Just like the human body, the canine body doesn't know what to do with the synthetic. So look for whole food ingredients. And I'm going to call attention to the one resource on the left, and it's a film, and it's called Pet Fooled. And you go to petfooled.com. If you're an Amazon Prime member, I believe you can rent it for a very nominal amount. I'm going to give you the disclaimer that it's going to open your eyes really wide, really, really wide, as to what the pet food industry, what their principles are, and how pet food is created. So there's some really great resources here. Foundation of everything starts with what you put in, because what shows on the outside is a direct result of what's going on the inside. So nutrition it's the basic foundation and starting point. So won't belabor that more. Feel free, let's move on. All right, so we talk about exercise, and I know during this time of the last year or so, some of us have done really well with exercise and some of us have not, but exercise is a key component. I have 4 dogs. I ran them and we played for about 20 minutes before we came on the call because they bark at squirrels. So I wanted them to be quiet. So a happy animal is an exercised animal. So key component, don't miss it. All right, so the rest and manage stress isn't something that we need to just think of in the moment, like, oh, my animal's anxious or my animal's stressed. Yes, like I think about one of our friends who's on the call here, they just moved across the country and her dog is a little stressed. Just like we employ these strategies in a regular basis so that, good self-care, we want to extend that to our animals. So here's a couple of tips that Jillian and I put together. We can diffuse lavender or magnolia if you're going to go on a road trip, or Winston, our Labrador, he is a rescue from Mississippi. We don't know what his 7 months prior to joining our family looked like, but he is fearful. I mean, you drop something and he skitters away. So when events come up like 4th of July or celebrations where we know there'll be fireworks, 2 to 3 days before, we start diffusing in our house to try to get his mental state in a place where he knows he doesn't like it, but he can manage through it. I really like the application. We haven't talked so much about application yet, but the application of water-based, you can make a spray and just use it as necessary. And Serenity, Balance, Lavender, you can combine them all together, choose one or choose another. When we get to the section, I think Jillian's going to cover it about the ways you use oils. We'll talk a little bit about how you introduce an oil to your animal, because it's a little different than you would yourself. And in the introduction, your animal is going to give you some good clues as to what oils they might be more inclined to like and what oils they don't. So I see there's a question popping up, how much water is the base? I would use, this is my bug spray, but this is a 4-ounce bottle. I might use, I don't have a 2-ounce bottle here. I might use a smaller bottle. And if it's a 2-ounce bottle, it's going to have 30 milliliters. So it's going to hold about 600 drops. If you want to deduce it down and do the math, I would say, Jillian, for cats, you're going to have to chime in here, please. I would maybe do 3 to 5 drops of an oil and use the rest water, because just like us humans, you can always add more, but you can't take it away. And because our animals have such, their olfactory or their sense of smell is thousands of times more attuned than ours is. So really, you don't need as much with your animals as you do. And I'm talking dogs here, as you do with humans. Jillian?
Oh, you want me to keep going? Yes, same thing with cats. They also have a very strong, keen sense of smell. So we're going to get in just the next couple of slides about more applications. So I think we'll hold off as we get to those.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the next thing on our pyramid that we need to talk about is reducing toxic load. And there's a few things on here that I want to make sure that you're aware of. First of all, doTERRA, and that's the only company that we're talking about. That is the only type of essential oils. And the reason is because they are CPTG, certified pure tested grade. When you have a bottle of doTERRA essential oils and you look at the bottom, there's a code that you can go to the website site sourcetoyou.com and put that in, and it will tell you exactly what's in that bottle. So there are some companies that might also have good quality essential oils, but you have to know what you are putting or using with your animals, whether that's floor cleaners or whether that's essential oils. So Heather and I feel really confident in the quality of doTERRA, which is why that is the only brand that we're talking about this evening. But the other thing that is super important to me is that doTERRA actually has a veterinary advisory board. So when it comes to using essential oils with your pets, I want a company that knows what they are talking about. And that is what we get with doTERRA. So again, at the end of this, you're going to see some resources, some books, and some veterinarians that you can also follow and get more information from. And 2 of them are actually part of our veterinary advisory board. So let's talk about reducing toxic load. One of the things that we need to talk about with cats, which is going to come up later, but cats specifically lack a liver enzyme. So cats are hugely susceptible to toxicity. So we want to reduce toxic load for everyone in our family, right? Ourselves, our children, our spouses, our dogs, our cats, every single person in our home. This is going to include for our pets, making sure, unless it's prescribed by the vet, that they do not have access to human medications. Household plants such as lilies, and there's a whole long list here. You need to, go ahead and Google. There's a lot of people food that animals should not be eating as well. We have our topical flea and tick medication, which really can be extremely toxic. Household cleaners, and I just want to stop here and pause when it comes to floor cleaners, because you have to remember that your animal is walking across the floor and then licking their paws, especially cats who are constantly grooming themselves, but I know dogs lick their paws too. So if you wouldn't ingest your floor cleaner, you should not be using it. And I sincerely mean that. So you can make your own household floor cleaner, or you can purchase something again that is safe. And that includes the things you're spraying on tables, or if you're using something to mist on a sofa or cushions that you're trying to freshen up. Things like, there are plenty of companies out there that have fake fragrances, and these are toxic to our animals. So we don't want them for ourselves, but we really don't want them for our animals. As I look behind me and both of my cats are sleeping on my couch right now, I would never use I have a sheet that covers it for pet fur reasons, of course. Those of you with cats, dogs know. I would never use a laundry detergent or a type of fabric refresher that they would then have their nose in while they're sleeping and be
Oh,
breathing.
Jillian, let's just call it out. Febreze has 88 toxic chemical ingredients. 88.
Thank you, Heather.
Let's just call it out.
We
You're
could,
so kind. But
we could spend an hour talking
We
about
could.
all of
we
the,
could
yeah.
spend the whole time talking about that.
Yeah, somebody go ahead and put into the chat some of the different sites that you can go to see how toxic your household products are, please. Okay, cigarette smoke, of course. Oh my gosh, we should not be smoking cigarettes. But if you didn't know this, when you smoke, the smoke will sit on your animal's fur and then they will ingest it. So it's not just breathing it in, they're actually ingesting it. Poor quality food and supplements. We've talked about food that includes supplements and other things you might be giving to them. Contaminated water. We want to make sure that our water is clean. If you don't drink your tap water, please don't give it to your cats and your dogs. And then lastly, I have on here cat litter. Again, I could spend an hour talking about different quality of cat litter. There's no right or wrong answer to the type of cat litter that you should be using. However, make sure it does not have anything synthetic like a fragrance. There are different, especially when you get into some of those clay litters, they've added things to it, again, like the Febreze. This is something we do not want our cats inhaling and then licking off their paws. Do you want to add anything to this, Heather? I know you're very passionate about some of these topics.
I am. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to make the assumption some of you might be like, well, what do you use? I use the doTERRA On Guard Cleaner Concentrate. I use that. I make it into a spray. I use it for stains on my laundry. I use it on my pet bedding when I'm going to wash it. I use it to clean my surfaces. Because I've looked up each of the ingredients, and yes, you have to kind of be a sleuth to identify what ingredients in the products that we think, we've all probably heard the term, right? Greenwashing. Any company can say their products are good and clean. It's our responsibility in this. I'm very passionate about this. My dogs can't speak to me. It's my responsibility, and I'm accountable for their health. And I take it really seriously. So I'm the one who will go and look up on the EWG each individual ingredient and make an informed decision. Okay, these 3 are 0 to 2, they're in the green light. Is there, is there one ingredient that's in the 3 zone? Am I comfortable with that? And there's, as Jillian said, there's no right or wrong. I'm just trying to be my pet's best advocate. So, and I really like the On Guard Cleaner Concentrate. It works great. I know it's clean. I know it's safe. I mean, whatever goes. I didn't know, Jillian, that if it settles on their fur and then they ingest it as cats. I didn't know that. I don't have cats, but that makes perfect sense. And think about too if you're freshening carpets, or what carpet freshener are you using. I use straight baking soda and I saved an old jar with a sprinkle top, and I just put baking soda in it and some On Guard, actually the essential oil, 4 or 5 drops. I shake it up, and that's what I would sprinkle on my carpet. So really easy, inexpensive, safe solutions.
Thank you, Heather. I also use the On Guard line for my floor cleaner. Okay, let's get into the essential oils, right? That's why most of you are here, but obviously we had to focus on the foundation of health. And I think you're starting to maybe see why we might want to switch some of our products over to something that's more natural, like an essential oil, so that we can start to really reduce the toxic load on our animals. So there are 3 ways that you can use essential oils with cats, and then Heather's going to turn around and talk about dogs. So the first is aromatic, and aromatic and topical are really the 2 ways that we want to use essential oils with cats. There are rare times that you would use essential oils internally, but they are pretty rare. And one of the reasons is because, as I said, cats are constantly grooming themselves. So as you put essential oils on them topically, they're actually going to also be getting the internal benefit of those essential oils without you needing to put them into something. So aromatic, first of all, this is a huge myth that citrus oils are not to be diffused around cats. They are okay if you're talking about a good quality essential oil like doTERRA, that you can diffuse your citrus oils. However, you're not going to use these topically or again internally with your cats. Okay, some oils that cats have shown some sensitivities, but again, not all cats. Just like all people are different, and some of us like lavender and some of us like serenity better, cats and dogs are going to be similar to this as too. So I have, for instance, it says here eucalyptus. I diffuse eucalyptus pretty consistently for my cat with asthma. It just has turned out to be the right essential oil for her. So it's important to remember only to diffuse 3 to 5 drops at a time in a water-based diffuser. Make sure it's away from an area that your cat or your pet can knock it over. So you're talking about dogs with, fast wagging tails, but you're also talking about cats that like to get on furniture and knock things over. We've had some of those. And then when it comes to diffusing, please make sure that wherever you are diffusing, you're leaving the door open so that your pet can leave the room if they get overwhelmed by that scent. You want to monitor them, you want to look and you want to see how they're reacting to the essential oils, but really make sure those doors are open. And sadly, I cannot believe that for the first time in 4 years, I accidentally locked my cat in the bathroom with the diffuser going last night. So I now know firsthand what that's like and what that can do to an animal. So if for some reason that happens, or it seems like your cat or your dog is having a reaction, just turn off the diffuser. I turned off every diffuse that was going in the house, and I opened up the window, and I just made sure that she was getting as much fresh air as possible. All right, so oils to avoid topically and internally with cats are also listed there. I'm not going to read each one of these off and go through them one at a time. There are instances where many of these could be potentially safely used. However, we have so many essential oils available to us that let's just stick to the ones that we know are safe instead of, gambling, especially as new essential oil and pet, as we're new with our essential oils and our pets. And the last thing I'm just going to say here is when it comes to internal use, if you were going to use essential oils internally with cats, you would want to make sure that you are using a very small amount. And I use a toothpick. I mean, I'm talking not even a drop, a toothpick in the top of the bottle, and I swirl it in their wet cat food. I do not put essential oils into water, especially with cats, or if you're in a multi-pet household, you may not know if one of your animals stops drinking. But cats especially, they don't really like to drink water, as I said earlier. So I don't like to put essential oils into water when I have cats.
And I'm going to springboard off of that and say, for dogs, one of the recommendations for good oral health and pH in the mouth is to put 1 drop of lemon. So we have community water. So I have 1 big water bowl for all of my guys. They won't drink it. If there's lemon oil, they won't drink it. So those are the subtle signs. So I just know, okay, you will just approach it in a different way. Much of what Jillian just said is exactly the same for dogs. So I don't think you can see it, but I have the very large Dawn diffuser, and it will run for hours and hours. And I filled it up right before our session this evening, and it holds, 10, 12 drops. My office is a big sunroom. It doesn't have a door other than to exterior. And my dogs come in and out, but they're not confined. So I like the recommendation, go slow, but this diffuser holds a little more, and I'm okay with it because it's in a big wide open space. And if they don't like it, they just leave. Similarly to what Jillian shared, I won't go through all of them, but we've all probably heard a story or heard from someone or read it ourselves about what was titled or reported as a side effect or a bad reaction to tea tree oil. And I think it's important for us just to cover that and reconfirm, do we know the quality of that oil? Was it synthetic chemicals, perfumes? How much of the oil? Tea tree oil, I'll just say it in real simple terms. All the research that I've done in the homeopathic space with natural remedies, the overdoses are from 2 and 3 bottles undiluted. Like, we would never do that for ourselves. So that's a very severe case. However, a lot of the properties that we might like for Melaleuca, the antibacterial, the antiviral, we have a nice substitute. And Jillian, I think we're going to talk about that later, but I bring it up because there isn't one oil that only does one or serves one purpose. We have lots of oils to opt from. Let's lean towards the ones that we know don't cause any challenges. I won't rehash what Jillian said about stop your diffuser, allow your pet to get fresh air, same drops. And similarly, what I'll add about the avoid oils, that's in general, it's very important for us as our pet owners and those they're in our care to know what the baseline health status is of our pets. So if your pet has a seizure disorder, if your pet is, your female dog is pregnant, or if they have a thyroid issue. Those are important things that you'll want to know and understand so you can select your oils appropriately. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the topical and how your head might be spinning a little like, okay, guys, you've said there's lots of oils to choose from. How do we know where to start? I really love the recommendations that Jillian and I have both learned from one of our mentors, Dr. Janet Rourke, who happens to be she's called the Essential Oil Vet. You'll see her reference on the last slide, but she talks a lot about how do we introduce an oil to our pet, keeping in mind, right, their olfactory sensors they have so many more than we do. We introduce it slowly. We would introduce it, I don't have a bottle in front of me, and of course I pull out the Melaleuca, but pretend it's not. We would introduce it. We call this self-selection. And I would introduce an oil to my pet with the cap on because of their keen sense of smell. And their responses or reactions will be subtle. So if an animal likes it, they might lean into it to smell it. They might simply turn their head like this. They might get up and walk away. You need to be the detective and just observe and see how your pet responds. So remember in the first slide, we talked about, oils that might be good if you're going on a trip and the calming oils, Serenity, lavender, Roman chamomile. Try one, see what their reaction is. You will see a definite difference among the different oils that you try to introduce. So and to go slowly, that's the way to go slowly. Jillian, you have anything else to add to that?
One of the questions I get all the time, Heather, is about tea tree, because there's so much information, out on Dr. Google about pets and tea tree. One of the things that I want to make sure everybody is aware of is that you can still use tea tree. Tea tree is great for your skin. So if you want to put some, tea tree into your face lotion or whatever you're using on your face, that's perfectly fine. Your pet is not going to get sick. I wouldn't recommend you let your pet lick your face after you do this, but it's okay to use these oils for yourself. If you're using one of them to clean, again, ventilate and just make sure your pet's not trapped in the room.
And always remember, whatever you put on your skin, whether it's synthetic or pure, we lean towards the pure, it absorbs within about 20 to 30 seconds. So if you're using, let's say I burn my my wrist on the oven. If I put an oil on it, I'm not going to not pet my animal. I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for that oil to penetrate into my skin. And then if they lick it, it's already absorbed into me and I'm perfectly fine and comfortable with that. All right. I don't remember whose this one is.
That's you.
Okay, this is the dilution chart. So just like with humans, forgive me, I know some of you are new and some of you are more experienced users. Just like with humans, we dilute our oils. I like to call attention and delineate the species out a little bit here. You see on the very top bullet where it says cats 0.5 to 2%. Those are the dilution ranges that you're going to want to stay in for your cats because they're small and they lack this liver enzyme with regards to metabolism. This chart you can find, one of the resources we offer you can find it on her Facebook group or on her website. This is from Dr. Janet Rourke, so it comes from a veterinarian. I'm going to reiterate what I said before. When you're starting to use oils to address an issue, I always like to go slow because just like when you're flavoring a recipe that you're cooking with spices, you taste it along the way, right? So that you want to see, is it too much, too little? If you over flavor it, you could ruin your dish. You could always add more. So go slowly and your pet responds. Your pet will respond. You can add more as needed, but it's hard to take it away. There is nothing wrong with going slow, and I highly recommend you do that. But I like this graph too because it gives you a nice range for you to gain confidence to make remedies or recipes on your own. Okay.
Okay, so we're about to get into the oils, but I do want to talk about one more way that's important to know that you can get essential oils into your kitties, and that is in a litter box powder. So this would be, you would just literally sprinkle this into the litter, and you can use many of the different essential oils that we're going to talk about today. But there's a couple on there that are good choices. So that can be as like a deodorizer, but that can also, I personally use the litter box powder for the health benefits. So my cat that's hyperthyroid, I have a litter box powder that is specifically designed for hyperthyroid cats, and I'm using those essential oils in there. So when they scratch in the litter, they're getting the aromatic benefit. They're getting it topically, right? Because it's on their paws as they're scratching. And then of course they're cleaning themselves afterwards. So they're also getting the internal application. So this is a great way that you can actually use essential oils with your kitty cats. All right, let's get into the oils. And again, feel free to take pictures as we go. We're gonna possibly fly through some of these, but because we wanna make sure we cover many different conditions or concerns that you might have at home. So Copaiba is an amazing essential oil for cats and dogs. It is probably my go-to #1 oil for just about everything. As you see there, it says hyperthyroidism. It's also great for, my kitties are a little bit older, so arthritis or joint pain, skin issues, which I do have a cat with allergies that shows in the way of skin issues. So Copaiba is something that I am constantly using with my kitty cats. This is the only one that I've ever used internally with my cats. I have not used any other essential oil internally because again, when you use it topically, they're getting it internally. So for the kitties, diffusion is definitely going to be preferred, but you can use it topically on them as well. And then, as I said, internal, not generally indicated with cats, but the way that I use it was with one toothpick and then just kind of swirl it in the cat food. You definitely want to make sure that they are eating their food. If you put too much essential oil in it, I've done this, try by error, they will not eat the food, especially picky kitty cats. And then your litter box powder is another great way.
And Copaiba is great, although it just has a cat on there. It's all of those things are great for dogs too. And for dogs, let's use the little graphic of the paw prints. When I add an oil to my dogs, you can put the oil on you and pet them. The skin is or the fur is a great conduit because it will travel down to the hair follicle and then go into the skin and be absorbed that way. But I really like to, and I've learned to apply the oils diluted to the paw pads. So I like the rear paw pads, and I make it in a roller bottle, or I just put it on my hands and you just rub it right onto their feet.
Okay, and then lavender and balance. These are balance is a blend of several different essential oils, and balance is actually already is in a base of fractionated coconut oil, so it already has some dilution to it, whereas lavender is just a straight, lavender essential oil, unless you're using a lavender touch. So lavender is everything calming and relaxing, and this is for people as well as our pets, but this is usually something I recommend if you have, for example, I had a kitty cat that did not like going to the vet, so I would spray, just mist a small amount on her towel that was in her cat carrier to help kind of keep her calm. There's so many times with pets that might have some stress or anxiety that you can use lavender. Balance is another one that's also going to help really promote relaxation. But balance, which is the grounding blend, is also going to help to restore the homeostasis to the animal. So balance is something that we've used for the hyperthyroidism. Just again, that grounding, it's a beautiful blend. And then we have a list here. A couple oils for allergies. So again, I have kitties with allergies. I like to actually diffuse when it comes to allergies, but this is something that I also like. My parents have a dog, so I do use essential oils with dogs as well. When it comes to anxiety or rest, I love to use essential oils on her ears. So it's called ear tipping, never in the ear, but on her ears is a really kind of give her like a little massage, as long as the pet likes to be petted there. You don't want to create more anxiety. But that's one of the ways that I love to use these essential oils with dogs as well.
Let me add a little bit to that. So this is my dog Cam, and a Labrador doesn't have ears that if they shake their heads, will cover their eyes, but a Basset Hound would, or some of the long floppy eared dogs. So when we say apply, the ear tipping method, I like to and I'll use myself as the example, like behind the ear where the ear attaches to the skull, I like to add it there because they can't lick it and there's no risk of them getting it into their eyes. We didn't talk about that. We probably should.
Yes.
Just like with humans, we want to avoid oils in the eye, directly in the ear, sensitive areas, and around the reproductive genitalia. We want to not do that as well. All right, so we're getting to springtime here in New England, those of you other New Englanders, and my dogs love to be outside, and I won't say we have too many ticks around, I mean, too many fleas around here, but ticks are something that we all kind of get grossed out about. But when we practice the natural approach with the food, you know, with the health pyramid, dogs that have healthy insides, I have found that ticks don't like my dogs because they just don't, they emit health and they have a great healthy vibration. But that doesn't mean that I'm not proactive in trying to ward off pesky pests and the like. So we love TerraShield. It's a great blend. And I recommend that you have both of these, I call them formulations, but different options. It is the exact same item, just in a different delivery. I like the TerraShield in the spray bottle because I can then spray it on my pets. And then when I need to make more of my natural spray away blend, which I'll tell you in a second, I then just add the oils right to that bottle and I know what's in there and I know what it's for. So I showed the photo, I showed this before. This is my bug spray and this is great for people and pets. Having trouble with pests and pets and pesky things this evening. But I like to take the TerraShield. This is a 4-ounce, I use glass, and I'm going to turn it around and you may not be able to see that really clearly, but I take some little cap stickers and I just stick them right here on my bottle so that when my bottle is empty, I'm not searching for the recipe because the recipe is right here. And I just remember I take a little pen and I write on here, 20 drops, 4-ounce glass spray bottle. I do 20 drops each. That's why I recommend the bottle of TerraShield, the oil. So you can add 20 drops of each of the listed oils. I like the 1/4 cup of witch hazel because it helps to emulsify it and keep it together because, right, oil and water will won't mix. And when you fill the rest with water, you will shake it every time, but it helps keep it together. And then I just apply, paying special attention, to the feet, to the legs, belly, chest. When I'm going to apply to the ears, I spray on my hands and then I apply to the ears and the head. I don't ever want to spray their head. And then I reapply about every 4 hours, just like you would on a human. And I find it works really, really great.
Okay, so I think we maybe missed a slide, but because we're back to me already. But okay, so Digest Zen is an essential oil blend that can be used. And I just want to make this clear because Digest Zen does have peppermint in it, but we're not talking about using straight peppermint. This is a blend, so it's going to have other things in it as well. So it's not going to be the same concern as potentially using peppermint, but just like all the oils, we're still going to watch and monitor our pets to make sure. This is really good for really to keep the gastrointestinal tract functioning properly, but also is going to help to soothe that occasional stomach discomfort. So if you've noticed that your cat or your dog is not feeling well, sometimes with my older ladies, we've had issues in the past with some constipation. So this might be an oil that I reach for and just kind of give them a little massage. And then talk about hairballs, because this is about cats, right? So are there oils that can help cats with hairballs? Yes, but again, we want to look at the root cause of why is this cat getting a hairball to begin with. So they do ingest their hair from grooming. So make sure that you are brushing your cat to try to remove some of that excess hair. That's going to help. And then sometimes there's not enough mucous membrane that's secreted in their gut. Again, remember, cats tend to run dehydrated actually. So it could be that they're not drinking enough water or not getting enough healthy oils. And we mean things like, like a salmon oil, that kind of thing, or fiber into their diet. So you can use the digestive blend here. But again, I want you to think about what's the root cause of why that cat has hairballs, and let's focus on that. So the DigestZen is going to help support, but we still have to get to the root cause of why this is happening.
So before you move on, I want to share a story. A friend of mine texted me over the weekend and said, hey, my animal's having some, I'm just going to say it, my animal's having some diarrhea. What do I do? So I would take one drop. So this was a large dog. This person might or might not be on this call. This was a large German Shepherd. And I would take 1 drop of DigestZen with 4. So remember, back to dilution, I want to do a 1-to-4 ratio. So I'll do 1 drop of DigestZen to 4. I might use a tablespoon or a teaspoon of oil. You can never dilute too much because you can always repeat if you're not getting the result that you're looking for. So I would rub that on the pet's belly. And then, as I recommended for my friend to do, take what's left on your hands. And I don't have jowls, but I would, in an upwards motion, so you catch the jowls because you want to apply with a residue into their mouth, but they're not going to love it. So you just kind of go up. And I have found in my own experiences with employing some other natural solutions too, pure pumpkin, not puree, like pure pumpkin is just an amazing help for that condition. But I find applying the DigestZen in conjunction, 1 or 2 applications is all that it really takes.
If I can interrupt you, this is Kathy. I'm your friend.
There she is.
Yeah, I'm your friend with the dog, so I never gave you the results. So
Did not.
that very one application of the DigestZen, I did 2 because I just wanted to be safe. Fantastic that night. She was perfectly great. And again, I did, like you had said, the pure organic pumpkin. So thank you very much. Love and kisses to you for that. And she's all better sitting right next to me now. So thank you.
Fantastic.
All right, and then just a couple of recipes when you're dealing with arthritis. This can be for both cats and dogs, and then also asthma. So as I've mentioned before, I have older cats that we have had some joint pain. So again, I love going for that Copaiba especially, and that is something that I've used topically as well as diffusing, and then even just a toothpick amount internally. And then asthma. Because one of my cats has asthma and she's not medicated for the asthma, what the vet wanted me to do was to purchase a mask, and I would have to hold this cat down and put the mask over her face and then spray, I don't even know what, into her lungs. There is no way that I was going to be able to hold this cat down and put a mask over her nose. It just was never going to happen. So we've been able to really successfully deal with her asthma a couple of different ways. And the first is by just doing some air purifiers in the home, obviously getting her onto a better diet so that she's better hydrated than when she was on dry kibble before. Asthma can be tricky because so many different things can trigger it. So we kind of need to find out if there is a known trigger and remove that. That could be something like cat litter for the instance of a kitty cat. But I diffuse if it seems like she might be starting to get that cough, that means an asthma attack could be coming on. I diffuse 1 drop each of eucalyptus, lemongrass, and cardamom. And like I said previously, eucalyptus is one of those oils that's to watch and see how your animal is responding to. My animal responds exceptionally well to this blend. And what I do is I have fairly small apartment, but I put the same blend into 3 different diffusers because she's never in the same room. She moves around, and that way I have it going in 3 places. Now these are small diffusers in large open rooms, so I'm not overdoing the diffusion, but that way she's getting it for whatever room she is in.
So now we're on to an oil that I believe every one of us here that is an oil user, like you can never not have Helichrysum in your home apothecary because it just is so amazing. The photo is a little too grotesque for me to put on here, but Helichrysum has, just like all the oils, has multiple beneficial uses, from nerve regeneration to neurologic conditions, hearing impairment. I won't read through them all, but great for toxin exposure. Great if you notice your animal's having some negative reaction to a vaccine and you need to detoxify that, and for wound healing. So Winston he, underneath his eye, must have just been running through the garden, literally split his eye open. And we were going on vacation the next day. I literally had just come home from the veterinarian about 3 hours before. Like, I can't go back. I took a Q-tip, 1 drop of helichrysum. I also used frankincense, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And I just put it in like a silicone spice cup. And then I put several drops of coconut oil to dilute it. Now, remember, we don't put oils in the eye, but Winston is a very calm dog, and I knew that he would sit still for me. I took a cotton swab and I just put it into that liquid and I dabbed it onto his wound, his open wound. In 4 hours, I probably should show you the pictures because you'd be like, yeah, no way. In 4 hours, it was healed shut. And we were going on vacation where they were going to go swimming. I'm like, how do I keep this dog out of the water? I didn't have to worry about that because we like to call helichrysum liquid stitches or sutures with stitches without surgery. It works very quickly in supporting the healing processes of the body, as well as a lot of other things. So there. So let's talk a little about frankincense. It's great for supporting healthy cellular function. And healthy cellular function, you know, our cells are the machinery that either work great and keep us healthy, or they're out of balance and we see symptoms of them not being in balance. Frankincense is a great oil for humans and pets alike for supporting healthy cellular function. Great at skin rejuvenation, relax. You know, most people wouldn't maybe think, oh, frankincense is relaxing. It is. The plant components are of a relaxing nature. And it's great for surgery. I can attest to that personally. And then adding myrrh to that. Myrrh has such restorative, cleansing and healing properties, but myrrh is great for the mouth. And I think many of us don't think of myrrh that way. I had an animal who's crossed the Rainbow Bridge and he had to have a tooth extracted. And I put frankincense and myrrh on, I was like, how, and it was a back molar. I'm like, how am I going to get it back there? I again used the spice cup, the silicone spice cup, and I used the coconut oil was my choice of carrier. And I used a drop of myrrh, a drop of frankincense, and I used a silicone food baster. And use what you got, you know, right? And I just got it into the back of his mouth. He didn't have any dry socket, nothing. And it's really calming and helps to the cleansing and restorative properties, and he did not develop infection. So there we go.
That's pretty amazing.
Yep. And I like to do things naturally. So they sent us home with the antibiotic. And I was like, well, I'm going to try Mother Nature's antibiotics first. And when we went back for our check in 10 days, they're like, what did you do? I did not do the antibiotic because he would let me open his mouth. And I could see he was doing just fine. And they're like, it looks amazing. I had, you know, the conventional medicine if I needed it, because we do use a homeopathic approach to our animals. So I pay really close attention, even to small, minute details. So I would have observed if something was funny.
All right, and our last 2 oils that we're going to talk about tonight are Arbor Vitae and Juniper Berry. And these are really important to understand that Arbor Vitae is your alternative to tea tree. So Heather mentioned earlier that we were going to give you an oil that you can use in place of, and here it is. Okay, this is great for keeping those pests away. It's also great for nourishing the skin and helping with hair loss and a bunch of other things that are all kind of written out here for you. Juniper berry, I just want to give as kind of a shout out when it comes, especially to cats who are prone to having bladder and urinary kidney issues. This is an essential oil that can really help. So when it comes to kitty cats, the way I would probably use this would actually be in their litter box powder, sort of as a preventative. And I would start that early on. Again, as I mentioned, since cats don't tend to hydrate enough, and especially if they're on dry kibble and can be dehydrated, this is going to help lead to kidney and urinary tract issues down the road. So this is an essential oil that we might want to use. And you can diffuse it as well. You can use it topically, but for these kitties, for that reason, I would go ahead and use that in your litter box powder. Is there anything you wanted to add to these two?
Nope, you got it.
All right, so now we have our resources. So go ahead and get your phones out and take a picture of this. We've talked a lot about Janet Rourke tonight, and April, if she hasn't already, is going to put into the chat a link where you can actually go get an ebook from Janet. It's just a PDF that has essential oil safety for pets. This is going to cover some of those small animals, some of those larger animals, and it's also going to give you a list of do not use if your animal, as Heather mentioned earlier, might be prone to seizures, if your animal is pregnant, if they're on a medication or if they're diabetic, all that kind of thing. So it's a decent list in there just to keep you, aware of. Certainly, if you have questions, reach out to your vet. Your vet may not be well-versed in essential oils. It's not something that's usually taught. So sometimes you have to kind of take what your vet is saying and what you're learning about essential oils and work together. Or of course, find somebody that's a little more natural or homeopathic that might have the information. And I think, did you put somebody in Connecticut on here?
I didn't, but I'll call your attention underneath Dr. Rourke's book. We have some resources there. I'm going to describe to you the AHVMA is the American Homeopathic Veterinary Medical Association. And I put it there not to try to influence you, but if you're looking for a veterinarian that is more integrative, if you go to that website in the search bar, that's not the right word. One of the tabs says find a veterinarian, and you can put in your state and locate ones. I highly recommend that you interview them, because anyone can claim that they're integrative, and it's kind of a tagline, but if you're looking for someone who's really naturally focused, I will tell you my veterinarian, my conventional veterinarian here in town, does not know anything about essential oils and will tell me not to use them. But my homeopathic veterinarian has a wider array of knowledge. So we work together as a team. I'm going to encourage you to do the same and interview someone and find someone you're comfortable with and how they approach what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for in your provider and your care team member?
Did you want to cover the truth about pet cancer too?
Oh, yes. So the truth about pet cancer, many of you may or may not have heard of that. Ty and Charlene Bollinger, you may have heard about the truth about cancer, which is human focused. They also look at pet food, pets, cancer, and some of the causes and how we can shift to a more natural approach and manage through that. It is a series. You will need to purchase it, but I will say in my library of tools, it's one that I would not go without, because it's got great information in there. And like Jillian said early on, her animals do take some prescription medicines. We are not advocating for one or another. It's not an all or nothing approach. We can, use what you are comfortable with, but if you need to marry the two together, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
I was just listening to sometimes they do their series for free, and I was just listening to it within the last month or so.
Thank you for that.
And I wish I had my notes right in front of me, because the statistics are staggering. I think it's the projection is that 1 in 2 dogs will have cancer and 1 in 3 cats will have cancer in this year. That's staggering.
Yeah, I mean, think about these. So the chocolate Labrador you saw a couple slides back, that was my Dakota. I will say, Labradors, if you have them, 10, 12 years, all of mine have lived 14, have all been 14 and up, some almost 15. Dakota passed over the Rainbow Bridge from lymphoma. And I didn't know he had lymphoma till 12 days before he was called to his forever life. And I think back to how we've shifted, what do you put on your lawn? Are you using traditional fertilizers? Many of that are, treated with glyphosate. Are you using, which we know is Roundup, are you using those products? We've shifted away from that. So I'm comfortable not adding to all of the toxins that I just can't avoid. Like when you walk down the street, I saw someone post in there in the chat, in the winter, the salt on the street, you can't avoid that if you walk your pet. But what you can do is when you get home, take some nice warm water, wash your pet's feet, or I make my own paw wax. And, you know, and I use this big container because their paws fit in it. I literally take their paws and why it's sitting on my desk, I don't know, but it is. I just put their paws in it to try to protect their paws from absorbing the toxic chemicals, you know, doing the best that I can to avoid those exposures. But yes, I would, the statistics are staggering.
All right, so we want to wrap up just by saying thank you so much for joining us. If you would please take a moment to text the person who invited you and thank them for the invitation. Hopefully you learned something tonight and you found this an interesting topic. We'd love to have you thank that person. If they're on the call, go ahead and thank them in the chat. And if you want to learn more about getting doTERRA oils into your pet's home, go ahead and contact the person who invited you to this class and they can go through all of that with you. And again, just one more plug that if you have not yet attended Essential Oils 101, it is next Monday night at 6:30 on Zoom, and we can make sure that you get that link as well. So the person that invited you to this class can get you the link for that class as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, but we're not going to stop the recording yet because April, I'm just assuming we have some questions.
We do have a couple questions. Thank you, Jillian and Heather. That was excellent. First, let me ask Joanna Palumbo, can you please mute yourself as we go through the questions? Thank you so much. Okay, so we have one question. Is the Calm Down recipe for both cats and dogs? And would the dilutions be different?
Let me go look at it again. Hold
I'm
on.
looking at it too.
I need to see it.
It definitely came from the for dogs. Yeah, it does say if your dog. So
It does, but cedarwood isn't on the shy away from list for cats. So remember, you don't have to use them all. Try one. Start with one. Try lavender, you know, the self-selection process. See what your cat thinks about it. If it's a clear negative no, try the Roman chamomile or try Serenity. I know that was on the list here some, or try Balance. You can put them all together, but you don't have to. I'm not trying to confuse you, but you can do single and just try it out.
and those oils are all safe for cats.
Okay.
Okay, second question. This was from Kathy Race. She has a question about using the oils to avoid list. So this would pertain to cats. So Jillian, this would be for you. She's asking if we're avoiding those oils internally and topically, but is it okay to diffuse those oils that are on the list?
Yes, so the oils, and I can actually put that slide back up, but the oils to avoid, there were oils that some cats have shown sensitivity to that were on the left under the aromatic. So citrus oils can be diffused, but some of the oils that some cats have shown sensitivity to are peppermint, spearmint, eucalyptus, birch, wintergreen, and tea tree. I never recommend diffusing tea tree. There's just been too many claims about it, and there are other oils that you can use instead. And tea tree, I think, is sometimes an odd thing to be diffusing anyway. If you were cleaning with it, you're kind of naturally diffusing it because it's going into the air. But so those are the oils that we just want to be cautious of while we're diffusing. The oils to avoid topically and internally, unless they're on the list that I just read, they can be used and diffused. And that includes things like, for instance, On Guard is a question I get a lot because it has so many of the spicy oils in it, like clove and 2 types of cinnamon and rosemary. We diffuse On Guard in my house all year round, especially when it's that, winter season. You just want to keep an eye on your pet. And I literally mean an eye. One of the things you can do is look at the whites of their eyes to see if they're starting to get red, and cut back on the number of drops that you're using. Again, let them go to a different room, ventilate, keep the window open if you need to, just to kind of clear it out if it looks like they're having a reaction. But we've successfully used diffused On Guard in our home around several cats, 5 cats to be accurate, and 1 dog.
And if I can add something, I know the suggestion always is to run the diffuser on an intermittent setting when you're using it around pets. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So a lot of the doTERRA diffusers are like a 5-minute on, 5-minute off intermittent setting. Try to get a diffuser that has that, and 100% make sure it's water-based.
Perfect. Okay, 2 questions from Jennifer Navarra. The first question is for cats. And the question is, what oils would you recommend for ear mites? Now, I know that Marjorie put some information in there in the chat, but is there anything specific that you would recommend for ear mites?
Yes, and you know, the book that has my ear mite
Recipe?
in it is over there, but this book has one too. So I'm gonna see how close it is.
So here, I'm looking in Janet Rourke's book. This is just showing everybody. The ear mite recipe, I highly recommend you all get this book, whether you have a cat or a dog or have both, because it's a great complement when you're like, oh gosh, I need to do this. What do I do? In the back, she lists different recipes for different ailments. And the dilution guide is right here in here as well. So for ear mites, so it just says recipes. I'm gonna just read it to you. It says 1 to 2 drops of turmeric and 3 to 5 drops of geranium in a 10 milliliter carrier oil. Place 1 to 2 drops on a cotton round or cotton ball and swipe the inside of the ears after cleaning them well. Do this 1 to 2 times daily. Now, this does not say dogs or cats, it just is under recipes. So let me dig a little deeper, get to the cat section.
I know one of the other oils that's great for that is also going to be the Arbor Vitae.
Yes.
What was the second question, April?
The second question is, her cat has a lower functioning urinary tract and has difficulty with stones and also is high stress. So is there anything that you would recommend for that?
Yeah, any of the calming oils for stress, absolutely. Again, diffusing. So lavender, balance, serenity, copaiba. I mean, there's definitely a whole list. I'm going to suggest that you go ahead and do your self-selection with your cat so you can see what essential oil your cat wants to have diffusing. Cats can be a little bit picky. I've done plenty of self-selection with dogs, and I think every time the dog just licks the bottle, he or she is so happy. Cats can be a little bit tougher. So what I recommend is if you are doing self-selection, take a video of the cat, and you can always send it to somebody, or to find out if you're not sure if it's a yes or a no. If it's a definite no, they'll my cat actually hopped backwards to get away from an essential oil one time. So that was a pretty obvious no. But if they're not really moving, getting up and walking away with cats, it's possible that it's going to be an okay oil to use. So again, any of those for the calming, for the stress and anxiety piece. And then when it comes to, was it stones you said?
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to the juniper berry for that, but I'm going to see if I can get you an actual recipe while we go back to Heather.
And adding to that, I would also think, take a look at your cat's nutrition, because a lot of times the veterinarians will advise you to go on a specialty food. And if you actually look at the ingredients, it's so carbohydrate dense that it's potentially adding to the condition, even though I'm thinking about a particular brand that's got a lot of prescription varieties. They're so carbohydrate dense, and seeing as cats are obligate, which means strictly carnivores, you really want to take a look at what are we putting in. Is the stone maybe a symptom of what we're feeding them? We're just maybe overloading their system, and that's their symptom. So take a look at that.
Yeah,
I can't tell you that's it, but I would take a global look at your animal, like what are the factors?
Absolutely. So some of the essential oils are going to be juniper berry, lemongrass, cypress. Cypress is great for circulation. And then also geranium. And again, you're going to see geranium. You've probably heard us say that so many times. I rarely use geranium, but it's a great oil for working with your kitties.
Geranium's also great for ear things for dogs. I have a little glass jar and I keep it mixed up, and I've just put some cotton rounds in it, so they're always ready to go. One of my Labradors, from his puppy shots, he just had a gooey ear, and it persisted for about 2 years. And we were able to clear it up with consistently cleaning it with this natural solution. And then as he continued to eat his raw diet and we transitioned him strictly to raw, his ears are great. I think the raw food had more of an impact than the external solutions that we were deploying.
I
But we
agree.
did both.
And my aha moment with switching my cat to raw food was after a $5,000 vet bill. Those of you who have pets know how painful that can be. For severe allergies. They finally diagnosed her with IBD, and they wanted to go in and do exploratory surgery and biopsies. And it was going to be, I don't even know how much more money. And this was after going all over the place. I took her to 4 or 5 different vets. And I had started doing my own research. And the thing that I came across was transitioning to a raw food diet. As soon as I did that, her symptoms immediately cleared up. She did not have any other issues, and she's been 3.5 years now on the raw food diet, and she's gained weight, her coat looks better, she's happier. She's 19 years old.
You'll hear a lot of times species specific raw diet, because what Jillian feeds her cat is not appropriate for me to feed my dog.
Correct.
And I have found just through experience, and I'll just share with you my experience, veterinarians that I've worked with in the past have said, oh gosh, you don't want to feed your dog a raw food diet, you're going to die. And I'm like, well, they're less than 2% different than a wolf. And have you ever seen a wolf eat dry kibble, like something manufactured from a bag? They eat what they catch. They eat their prey. You might hear it called the prey diet. So, mentally, when you're feeding, a raw diet doesn't just mean the meat, as Jillian said. It's the organs, it's the feathers, it's the fur, it's every part of it. I'll say the other morning, my husband said, not our dogs, but something had a bird. Like all that was left was the head. Like the feathers, everything were gone. The wild animals consumed all of it. And that's what, when you feed a species specific raw diet, whether you do it commercially. Now I'm going to recommend, if you want to learn more, I'm happy to talk to you. I've done hours and hours of research on it to get that certification. And they're not all, just like essential oils, they are not all created equal. Just because it says raw doesn't necessarily mean that it's a high quality. Be the sleuth.
Exactly.
Be the sleuth.
All right, April, was there another question?
Yeah, there's a couple. First of all, for anyone who's asking about Janet Rourke's book, I did put the name of the book in the chat, so please look back for that. Amy Pear has a very unique question. So her vet told her to not use warm and moving essential oils, but to use essential oils that are warm and damp. And do you know what that means? And do you need more information? And can you clarify?
I'm going to say we need more information.
Okay, so that was Amy Pear's question. I'm not sure, is she still on?
I am.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, my dog has been having some digestive problems and he vomits a couple times a week. We've been doing a lot of construction in the house, so we understand there's a lot of environmental stuff going on. And our vet has been really good with us at kind of working through these. And her recommendation was if I was going to lean towards essential oils, to try warm and moving, not warm and damp. I don't know the difference.
I'm happy. I don't know either, but I'm going to go and learn. Let's make sure we connect and we'll learn together.
Sounds great. Thanks.
I want to know. I want to know now. I'm going to go figure it out.
And I can follow up with her too and see what she meant by it. So
I'd be curious too, and I wondered whether it had to do with the viscosity of the oils and or the vibration of the oil, but I have no idea either, but that was my guess.
I'm going to take a stab. I don't know, but when Jillian said, we talk about lemongrass is great for blood flow, right? So I would think that's a moving oil. And lemongrass is also, it's a nervine, so it helps to stimulate nerve functionality. I would think that's a moving oil, but I'm taking a guess just on the things that I do know, but that's the one thing you'll always learn, everybody. If we don't know, we're going to go figure it out.
Miss Heather, this is Dr. L. So
Hey,
what they're
Elle,
responding,
what can you tell us?
what they're responding to is an Ayurvedic approach. So
Okay.
just like when a person has too much heat in the body, they'll suggest having cooling foods. Okay, so look under Ayurvedic
Okay.
approach to essential oils.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Dr. L.
Okay, you're welcome.
Another
You guys did a
generalized,
great job.
Thank you.
sorry, Elle. Another generalized question was, are you going to put this recording on any Facebook pages, or is this just for your own self?
We are recording it for ourselves. I did have somebody that asked me to do a replay. So because we can't just put this information out, unfortunately. So what we're asked to do, which I believe is going to be acceptable, is to go ahead and do a night that or a day or whatever that we're going to just do a replay. Well, we'll just show the video over again. So we haven't scheduled that yet, but we can put that where, I don't know who asked that question, but we can put that into that same place you found it, if I know where you found the link for the class.
It was, there was a couple people asked.
Okay.
I haven't asked you this yet, but I think you just slap me upside the head if it's not right. I think both of us would agree, we're happy to do another session and teach again. We're happy to do that.
Yeah, I also think what we will do is, since I have everybody's email that registered, is we can let you know through email when the replay is going to be. That would be probably the easiest way.
And we're always accessible. We do recommend you connect with, your essential oil advocate, whoever your primary point of contact is, but we're not behind a vault. So please feel free to access our knowledge. We're happy to share.
Okay, I see one question from Barbara, but I believe that she's gone. I don't see her on here anymore. Barbara, if you're still on, please speak up. If not, Laura is asking.
Yeah, hi, this is Barbara.
Okay, so she's asking about diabetes for dogs, and what would you suggest?
It's actually a combination of diabetes and arthritis.
Yes, thank you.
Is your dog medicated?
Yeah, she's on insulin twice a day, 25 units twice a day. And she's also taking Previcox and gabapentin.
Are you looking that up, Heather?
I am.
I know they're in that, in Janet Rourke's safety guide, I know there are oils to avoid. So I just
Correct.
want to call your attention to that, and please make sure that you get that so that you can look at that list specifically. But it does say to avoid if your pet is on any anti-diabetic drug, cassia, cinnamon, dill, fennel, lemongrass, marjoram, melissa, myrrh, and oregano. So I know that was a quick list, but if you get that safety guide, that's in there, and that's one thing for you to pay attention to.
And that's so fascinating, Jillian. I would like to dig a little more because in Dr. Rourke's book, she said the recommended oils are geranium, coriander, myrrh, melissa, which I think you just read off as the do not use list, grounding blend, restful blend. And it says select 1 to 2 and diffuse 2 drops of each, or topically 1 to 2 drops of chosen oil. And you would dilute that in a 10 milliliter carrier with 10 milliliters of carrier oil, and then apply 1 to 2 drops of that mixture as needed.
And let me
So just to ask you about that, and I don't want to take too much time. Sorry, the diabetes doesn't go away. So I'm just wondering, would that reduce the need for the insulin, reduce the amount of insulin I give her? I'm just trying to understand what the oils would do.
So it could. And so one of the things that, again, I just want to preface, it says oils to avoid, and the list I read off, it says without careful blood glucose monitoring. So I'm not sure if you're actually monitoring your dog's blood glucose, or when I had a cat that was diabetic, we're talking years and years and years ago, and we just gave her a certain number of units of insulin every day. It wasn't like we were checking her blood sugar the way a human does and then adjusting it, but she was also on a really regular diet of, the same food at the same time of day. So it was a lot easier. So I imagine that your dog might be in a similar boat where you're just really strict with what they eat and when they eat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a glucometer last week, so I'm going to be checking her insulin more frequently because it's been very high lately.
Yeah, so some of those oils are going to help to lower it. So the only thing is you want to be monitoring it to make sure, and again, that's something where you really do need to work with your vet to adjust the insulin. My father's a type 1 diabetic, so I will say I've been through that with a human, and needing to make sure we're checking everything as we go. Could be a little bit more challenging with a dog. Keep an eye for those symptoms of when they might have either a high or low blood sugar. I don't even know what that would look like in a dog, to be honest. I know what it looks like in humans.
It's funny. It's the same as a human. They drink and they urinate a lot if they're got too much, and they would faint if it's too low. So yeah.
So this is fascinating. So another book that Jillian and I use a lot, and I really like this book. It's called and it was on our reference list. ADR stands for Animal Desk Reference. It's the second edition. It's written by a veterinarian. Her name is Dr. Melissa Shelton. Now, we like her information, but we select doTERRA oils versus she sells oils, and I'm not knocking them. I just don't know what ingredients are in her oils or the testing or the quality or purity. I trust doTERRA, so I like her information and I apply it to doTERRA oils. She recommends in her book for diabetes mellitus, which is the technical name, there must be a canine supportive blend. I would have to go find it. But she said modifying oils, because every animal's different, and it might include 3 oils on the do not use list from Dr. Rourke: spearmint, dill, and fennel. So I think it really, just like in humans, we need to have baseline information, and we need to, if it were my dog, I would find the commonality of what don't use, and I would find other choices. I'm like, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? And then I would try to find oils that exhibit those properties, but don't have any of the negative potential side effects, if you want to, or outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you guys.
Not always easy. So, but you know what? I like the challenge. And just like medicine isn't one size fits all for any species, it's not for your dog either. So let's find what's right for he or she, because it will work every time. When we dial in and we find that right combination, it will work like a charm.
Okay, thank you.
The next question is from Laura, and I'm assuming this is pertaining to a dog. The question is, what would you suggest for yeasty ears and seasonal allergies?
So my question would be, I don't know if Laura's still with us, but is the seasonal allergies symptomatic in the ears, or is it, are they itchy, scratchy? Are those 2 separate questions? I think that's what I'm curious about.
She was on, and now I don't see her, like literally just a moment ago.
So I'll just share with you that little jar of stuff that I make. I'm actually pulling out my recipe, which is in my book. I make there's 5 reasons why, and I did dogs. There's 5 reasons why dogs go to the vet most frequently, and it's ears, arthritis, allergies, teeth, and digestive challenges. And we have natural solutions that can address all of those, and we can use, incorporate them. So I like to use I don't use a bottle, I use a jar, and I fill it with organic witch hazel. And then I use 20 drops each of frankincense, because it's antiviral, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and bacterial. Lavender, we know lavender's all things soothing. I take the cotton rounds and I put them right in the jar, so it's ready to go. And when I need it, I just open one and I wring it out and I use it. And then I also add, if there's discharge of the yeasty ears, because this is what we did for Ranger, we added basil and arborvitae. And the key to it all, just like our oil usage, is consistency. Every other day. I like the cotton round too, because I can kind of roll it up and it gets the ear gook out, because that's what Ranger's challenge was. But you got to be consistent. One and done isn't going to work. If you do it once, you're like, it didn't work. Well, no, it's not going to work.
True. I think this is a generalized question. Any suggestions for when an animal has an odor?
The animal itself has an odor, like?
Yeah, this question is from Melissa. Melissa, did we lose Melissa? I think we did. Oh, so sad that they keep dropping off. I was trying to do all the questions in order. And these are the last ones. Okay, Monica Liddell. Is Monica Liddell still on? Yes,
know,
she
Melissa
still
is
is.
still on.
Yay, Monica Liddell's still on. So her question is, anything to get your older dog to stop peeing? She has bladder control issues, also breath. Can you put something in their water?
So older dog, what gender?
Female.
Is she spayed?
Yes.
We find a lot of times in our spayed, and in our spayed females, that as they age, the tone of their bladder and their sphincter, just the mechanics, tend to get looser. And you're not gonna like my answer, but it's not necessarily something you can fix.
Okay.
What was the second part of that question, April?
The second part was breath. Can you put something in the water to help with the breath?
Yes, and I actually feel, and maybe the other woman asked this question too, if there's an odor. Two of my dogs, not one of my dogs, but two of them do have an odor, and I've always suspected it's gut health, but I can't get any vet to agree with me. But it doesn't matter. Even if you go have their teeth professionally cleaned, they still have this scent.
You are right on the money. You know, what's inside exhibits outside. And I would say take a look at what you're feeding them, and we all have different, we fall in different financial categories. I have 4 labs. My dog food bill is expensive, but it's expensive, but we don't go to the vet other than for routine blood work. Like I could take my 4 dogs to the vet and it would cost me probably $200 to $300 each to do the things. My first yellow Labrador, Sam, he went to the vet 13 times in the first year of his life. He became a eater. I spent so much money on different things. And when we changed his food up, the odor, I would take a look at what are you feeding her? If you have if I have the right person, what are you feeding your animal? And take a look at the carbohydrate content, because a lot of times that could be a contributing factor. And just maybe switching up, if you're feeding kibble and that's at your price point, going to a higher quality kibble might have a positive impact.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Sometimes there aren't easy answers, but it doesn't mean there aren't answers.
Melissa, if you want to unmute yourself for that question, I know Jillian responded to you, so please unmute yourself and you can clarify that for them.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for this wonderful information that you've been all providing. But yes, as the previous person had indicated, the body odor, there's like an odor that comes through the cat, and one of my cats, and I thought it was also something health-wise, but as they told her, no, but yeah, that's just like a smell.
Just like for ourselves, we need to be an advocate for our own health. We have to be an advocate for our pets. And I know sometimes that can be really challenging. And I don't want to make a blanket statement about vets, because there are some amazing, wonderful veterinarians out there. But we have to remember that we see our pets every single day. We know if something is off. The vet doesn't. So we need to be, I think, a stronger advocate for what might be going on. And that was my experience moving my cat to a raw food diet. My vet highly cautioned me not to. I had to bring in for the 12 years I've had her, I had to bring in all of my receipts showing that every time I had her vaccinated, she had this problem. I legitimately have a vaccine injured cat, and he finally looked at all my data and said, "You're right, you can never vaccinate this cat again." And I said, "Thank you. Finally, somebody is agreeing with the information that I'm, providing." He still cautions me on the raw food diet, but I have to tell you that every time I go in there, he comments on how great she looks, because this cat looked horrible for a long time. And I continue to tell him it's the raw food diet because I'm not doing anything else. That's it. And again, 19 years old. So when it comes to something like a body odor, there are things that you can either diffuse, or again, you can make your own fragrance sprays and that kind of thing, just so that you can deal with the smell if it's bothering you personally, but we've got to figure out what's going on inside that animal that is creating something to come off or outside. And that happens with skin issues with people too, right? And animals have a lot of skin issues as well. We got to figure out what's going on inside to figure out what's happening on the outside. So I would look at the diet.
You know, let's not,
Thank you.
let's respect our veterinarians' training, but their training doesn't expose them. It's funded, the veterinary schools, similar to the medical schools, if you have a reference point there, they're funded by the pharmaceutical industry and by the pet food industry. So they're being taught, oh, when a cat has stones, prescribe this prescription diet. Right? It's difficult to recommend something you don't have any knowledge about. And that's why I put in that link to the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association. Now, not everyone, many of the vets on there do claim, hey, I'm holistic or I'm integrative. Interview them, because sometimes you find out they're not. They just use that as a tagline. But don't be upset with your vet if they just don't know, because they're not. How can they know what they're not trained to know? Trained on.
Can I also add one more question since I have your attention? What about like dripping of the eye? When the cat has like liquid coming out the eye, what could be used for that?
Is it clear or is it a color? Like, is it black?
Color.
Green?
It's not black. No, it's not black. It does seem like it has like a little tint to the liquid,
Kind of,
but
a
not
yellow?
kind of like very, very little, but it is mild. It's not clear.
Okay. Have you talked to your vet about it?
Yes, I have, and there was no recommendations for that.
Okay. I've had cats before with drippy eyes, and I've just simply kind of cleaned it up. I think Heather and I are going to keep saying the same things over and over again. Everybody that's on the call might be starting to understand that we're going to go back to diet again, because something could possibly be going on inside. Now, when it comes to essential oils, you do not want to put them in your cat's eye. So I would never recommend using
Or your
oils,
eye.
or your eye. Yes, any eye. So I would not recommend essential oils for that. But I would take a clean piece of cotton or toilet tissue or something like that and wipe it away. And again, I'm going to have to probably go back to diet on this, and checking with your vet to make sure, because if it's an infection, we've got to do something to clear the infection.
Yeah, it wasn't an infection. I was just wondering if you had some kind of mixture to include in, like maybe the diffuser or something like that, not necessarily to put it on his eye.
I can look that up for you. I don't have, I belong to Janet Rourke's Facebook group, which is a paid group, that when we have questions, actually Janet once a week goes live and responds to the questions. So I'm always happy to do that for people and try to get more specific answers when you have a specific case, something like that. And I can do that for you.
Okay, next question, and we're almost there, the end of the question. So we have a question this would pertain to Heather. This is from Lynn Wallaby. She has a West Highland Terrier who's 20 pounds, has many skin allergies, and she's wondering what type of raw food diet you would put that dog on or suggest.
I will share with you, I use a commercial raw food diet because I have 4 dogs and it's a recipe, it's a process. And I would highly recommend, I don't know where you live, but there are a lot of boutique pet stores where the people are really knowledgeable. Now, remember when I shared before, not just like all essential oils are not created equal, all raw pet food diets are also not created equal. The commercially available ones that I like, and I've done extensive research with Dr. Falconer and with my dog trainer friends and whatnot, I like a brand called Small Batch, SMALL Batch, Small Batch. I also like a brand called Steve's Real Raw. However, I only like the beef variety. and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I really like a brand that's out. It's a small brand and it's out of Pennsylvania, and they use a process called fermentation. So, and it's called Answers Pet Food. Now, I have 4 dogs, so my price point is pretty high. If you have 1 or 2, it won't be as high. However, I don't want you to be shocked when I pay similar per pound as I would for a human as I do for my dogs. But they're wildly healthy and I don't go to the vet. Like I've treated abscesses naturally with oils and homeopathy and avoided $2,500 bills and, you know, the side effects that linger for a long time with anesthesia. But those are the 3 brands I really like. I am really happy to connect with you if you want to, my email, if you want to connect with me, and I don't have anything to hide, find me, heather.naturalwellness@protonmail.com.
Why don't you put that in the chat, Heather?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. And I'll give you my phone number. You just got to tell me who you are. If you text me, happy to connect with you that way too.
Yeah, this was Lynn Wallaby was asking that question. And the last question is for Jillian. This is from Kathy Race. She has a question about an elderly cat who has itchy ears due to bacteria.
Okay. There's a couple recipes that we've talked about, because even something like the ear mites we talked about earlier, you're gonna see a lot of the same oils. So I'm looking here for, I'm so lucky my cats have not, my kitty is in my lap right now, have not had ear problems, but I have had a few customers that have had great luck with these. So if there's bacteria, there could be an infection. So we're looking at some of the same oils of geranium, lavender, and myrrh. It's 1 drop each in 2 teaspoons carrier oil. And this is around the base of the ear. So the front and the back outside, because we don't want to put essential oils into the ear 2 to 3 times daily. It does say for additional support, you can add 1 drop of frankincense, or again, that arbor vitae, which is really, I think, going to help, because remember, arbor vitae is going to be our replacement for tea tree. So when I have a skin issue going on, I always reach for the tea tree, right? It's antifungal and antibacterial, it's like anti-everything. So we're going to reach for the arbor vitae in that system, especially when you have something going on. The other thing we didn't get a chance to really talk about at all was supporting the immune system with supplements, omegas, and a probiotic. So for some of these pets that are having chronic conditions, that may be something that you want to look into as well. Again, getting the best quality supplement that you can get for your pet is very important. And there is a natural ear cleaner that's also in this book, which is 1 ounce of witch hazel, 1 ounce of apple cider vinegar. And apple cider vinegar, it's been used to, to kill germs and heal naturally. So sometimes referred to as nature's antibiotic, witch hazel can be effective in cleaning your pet's ears while protecting them from further infection. And that actually does not,
I'm sorry, I
oh,
interrupted.
go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that. Now, Ranger, my yellow lab, my 90-pound yellow lab, now that his ears are clear, I still use that recipe that I shared with you, but I also have a jar for all of my guys, because I want to be proactive. We keep ourselves groomed and cleaned. They can't clean their ears. I need to do it for them. So I have another jar that has that very recipe in it. My dogs swim almost every day in the summer. And when we come out of the water, that we clean their ears with that to keep them, because I don't know what's growing in that. It's a lake water, but I want to keep them healthy, and we use that proactive. We do it every day. They're used to it. So yeah, it works great.
And I want to thank everybody that hung on as long as they did. I mean, I'm used to teaching essential oils and cats and taking a full hour. I'm not sure how long you usually go, Heather. So for us to condense the information, luckily there was a lot of overlap, but to try to condense that and then take questions, obviously there's a lot of very specific things, going on with all of our animals. So I just want to, again, remember that wellness pyramid and start with the nutrition. Essential oils can really help support us. It can be part of our informed self-care and healthcare and everything with our veterinarians. But we got to go back to things like water, cat litter when it comes to your kitty cats, and nutrition as well. April, were there more questions, or was that, we got them all?
Got them all.
All right, if anybody else has a question that we missed by any chance, I do apologize, but you can go ahead and unmute now and ask us. Awesome. Go ahead, Kathy.
What kind of cat litter would you recommend?
Whew, Kathy, that is the $1 million question. Because cat litter is so individualized, and the last thing that you want is for your cat to not use the litter box. So if you can start with a brand new cat with a litter, that's ideal. Just like when you're transitioning to food, to a different diet, you're going to transition the cat litter in the same way. So you're going to use some of what you're on now and some of the new litter to try to transition them that way. There are a lot of there are things that I just dislike how messy they are. So for example, like the clumping cat litter, I'm not a fan of. I find that to be really messy. I know it's supposed to be helpful to just pull out the clumps and toss them in the toilet. I don't find that. I find it, you get cat tracks, at least my girls do, you know, through the whole house. We have not been able to transition off of a clay litter, but I try to get the best quality one that I can. And again, supplement with other things. I actually put this question into Janet Rourke's group because I wanted to see what people came back with. There's been some really great things about like pine and cedar and things like this that are more natural. So especially if you have an outdoor cat, they're going to be more used to going out, and, you know, when they're using the bathroom in the wild, they're probably in pine needles or something like that. So that can be easy to transition to. My girls have always been indoor cats, so it's been a challenge to try to move them over to something else. But trying to think, Heather, have you ever come across any other?
I don't have a reference for, I don't own cats. I like them, but I just don't own them.
I didn't know if you had any customers that have ever suggested anything. There's one that I can't think of right now. I'll try to get you the name, Kathy. It was something, they also have unusual ones now that, like, when your cat urinates, turns color. That scares me.
Yeah, like what's in there to make it turn color?
Yeah, whatever chemicals treated to make that happen, you know, things like that, I would try to stay away from. The more natural you can get, the better.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
And I'll share, if anyone here, you know, if I've piqued your interest to, at minimum, start to research a raw food diet, please feel free to connect with me, because there's a, you know, there's a method of transitioning. Going cold turkey from one to another might set you up for some digestive disturbances that you won't be really happy with me about. So chat with me. I'm happy to share what I know if that's an interest for you.
Hey, Heather, this is Winnie Cerrone. I have a question. What do you think of freeze-dried raw food?
So I guess it would depend on the brand. I will say, you know, we're living in uncertain times. So I have, my raw food is frozen, and I have a freezer that we bought just for it. So it's not like I can stock up on it, and, you know, you need the physical space. So I will say that I have purchased some freeze-dried raw in, you know, and I've kind of put it in my like storage area in case for some reason I can't get something, or something happens, that they'll have something good to eat. There are some really great brands. There's one brand, and I'll have to get back to you on what it is, and I really want to try it, and it gets great. You know, the physicians, the veterinary physicians that I'm connected with all have great things to say about it. But when you live east of the Mississippi, you have to pay for shipping, and it's like $100. So I won't do it. I'm like, for the amount of food I would have to buy, I would be increasing my food bill by several $100s in one.
They are.
I haven't tried it just because it's prohibitive. There's a brand called Wysong, Wysong. They do a freeze-dried raw that I like. Let's talk, I see, Marjorie, your question, what about Primal? So I don't want to hijack the call, but since we're just having conversation, one of the key things, kind of like when you look at your ingredients on the EWG for the quality of them and the cleanliness of them, there's a process that pet food goes through to pasteurize it, to take the pathogens out of it. And one of those processes is called HPP, high pressure pasteurization. And it pressurizes and crushes, so to speak, the vitality of the food. So it kills everything. So you've really taken a raw food, which is the purpose of your raw food, is the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrients, all of that, and you've eliminated it. So you're paying a raw food price for something that's dead. So there's no vibration to it. So when it comes to Primal, in my research, Primal uses HPP. And remember when I said I like the Steve's Real Raw brand, but only the beef variety? Because in their poultry, so their beef, their poultry, their pork, they use HPP. So my choice is to feed a species specific raw appropriate diet. So I choose something else that doesn't use those HPP. Because it's in a raw form, but it really is the same quality as the kibble.
You're right. Thank you. My dog, I have a small, not a small, but Shih Tzu. We did use Dave's beef, but then he has, I guess, his allergies. He scratches and scratches and scratches.
A lot, and we're not going to go into great detail about that, but it would also be valuable. Like Jillian said, she had an animal that had severe outcomes from being over vaccinated. Every time our pet goes to I'm going to assume all of us here, you get a card or a note or an email, it's time for your annual vaccinations. As a society, understanding how the immune system works, it's not like on day 365, poof, that injection stops working. I would highly recommend you take a look at titer testing to understand what your pet's degree of immunity is, rather than just going in and getting vaccinations, because vaccinations have they wreak havoc on the immune system, and that could have an impact too on what symptoms is your animal showing. So like Cooper, my dog that's vaccine injured, and Ranger with the ear, those were vaccine injuries. Those were caused from the immune system, being hyper stimulated, which is what vaccinations do. So I'm not advocating for not vaccinating, just appropriately vaccinating and understanding, just like you do blood work, what are your titers?
Titers,
Titers, titers. And if you want to learn about titers, I'm going to send you to, now it's not a fancy website. It's very basic, but Dr. John Robb, R-O-B-B, he practices in Newtown, Connecticut, and he has a movement called Protect the Pets. And if you go to his website, protectthepets.org, I believe is the website, you can find a lot of information on titer testing.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And
there are lots of moving parts. Don't be overwhelmed. Start with one thing. And you make that improvement, and then maybe you start with the next thing.
Thank you.
I will say when I switched to raw, I did find a local pet store that allowed me to try samples of different types of food first, because it can be a challenge. I was fortunate that my cat just transitioned very easily. I still have one cat I'd love to transition, and she just won't. She wants nothing to do with it, and she has to eat versus not eating. Right. And I have used the freeze dried. That's my fallback if I forget to defrost, because it's frozen. If I forget to defrost, or again, if something has come up like Heather said, and I just can't get to the store, some reason I don't have it. I do have one brand that has freeze dried, I forget what they're called, toppers or something like that. And I've used that with my cat that likes dry kibble, that I can't transition over to raw food. I've been giving her that on top of the dry kibble so that she's slowly transitioning to more of the freeze dried, which she's okay with because of that texture versus the raw meat that she just won't eat.
And don't be afraid. You're gonna have to do a little research, but don't be afraid to. So Rodney Habib, I'm not sure if I put his website up there. He's got a great website. I do know that one of the websites I put up there was healthypets.mercola.com. He partners with Dr. Karen Becker, and Rodney Habib partners with her a lot as well. They're featured in Truth About Pet Cancer. So if you're going to do one thing to start your educational journey, I'm going to recommend 2. Get Dr. Rourke's book, because you can help manage some things that are manifesting today. Use your natural plant-based solutions, your oils, but then maybe watch the Truth About, and as Jillian said, they offer it free from time to time. If you get on their mailing list, they'll tell you when it's coming up again. It was an investment in my pet's health that I made, that I thought, for me, that was the right choice. But he will talk a lot about, even if you take your dry kibble diet and you supplement it with, let's say your pet eats a cup. So you replace 1/4 cup with fresh foods, it decreases the risk of cancer by an astronomical %. And that you can control because you can buy organic fruits and vegetables. And my pets eat the way that I eat because the body is the temple.
That's for dogs.
Yes, for dogs.
Yeah. We don't really feed fruits and vegetables to cats.
No, they're obligate carnivores, which means they want meat. I mean, it's not like you'll feed your dog a lot. If you want to, if anyone has a Labrador, now it's kind of funny. Ever fed your dog an egg, a whole egg? It's safe to do that, but not a grocery store egg because they clean it with gunk. I buy my eggs from a local farm and they're soft. They'll carry it around and eventually it will crack and they'll eat it, which is exactly what you want them to do. But if you just took the egg and you weren't yet comfortable feeding the shell, just crack an egg, mix it into their food. You've just made their food far healthier. Labradors are funny with the eggs. They'll carry it around like a little girl will carry her little baby doll. It's funny.
It's cute.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Great to know. Thank you so much.
Happy to answer any questions that we still have.
I can't believe we have this many people still hanging out with us. These are our crazy animal lovers here who are just like, feed me, or they are doing something else and left their phone on. These are the people who are like, wow, fascinating, all of this information. I'm so glad to have so many people still on. I am going to stop the recording though, because this is getting long. So before I do that, I'm going to say thank you to everybody.